BHP Billiton, expansion coming through in Western Australia, iron ore, 240 million tonnes is what they're looking at.
Huge
Great
numbers.
news.
Look, I wanted to talk about it because everybody loves transactions. So we get all steamed up about Billiton buying potash. Then it can't buy potash because it's told by the Canadians, no, you must go away, it's our asset.
Yeah.
And then everybody kind of gets into an excited state about Walmart,
But isn't that what
Massmart.
investors and shareholders want?
They do. They want to
Acquisitions,
see some
buyouts.
acquisition, and then they can argue about whether it's a good price or whether it's a sensible expansion. But much more important to the long-term valuations of a company like Billiton are these fantastic transactions in terms of developing their own assets. So we know that the Western Australian iron ore, which is positioned perfectly straight up into China, so they've done like 4 or 5 different rapid growth expansion programs, and this is the latest. The scale here we're talking is huge, 240 million tonnes. Kumba Iron Ore is hoping to do 50 after its massive expansion plan over the last decade. So it's iron ore, it's coal, and it's a commentary not only on the demand, but it's also a commentary on what the profits of Billiton can be in years to come if they can maintain.
What's interesting is they've put a target in terms of tonnes, but we don't really know, they haven't set a date yet.
Well, I think these things, by their nature, sort of roll out. They said that they'd increased the size of the port the last time
So
round.
is it 5 years, is it 10 years,
so
is
they
it
can
15
like
years,
double it
Paul?
up. Well, it's all just good grist to the mill. So my point is, people sit and they say, is Billiton worth 260 rands a share? That's where it trades in Joburg today.
Yes.
Well, you know, they say, well, look, commodity prices are what they are compared to where we were at the last, but the physical volumes are just incredibly larger than they were 3, 4, 5, 7, 10 years ago. So that's why it's going to be worth more. You don't have to have a bullish view on commodity prices. All you have to do is look at the company's own, macro development plan. It's fantastic.
Okay, you own BHP Billiton. Let's just disclose this.
We own Billiton, we own Kumba, we own Anglos, we own them all because we think commodities over the next 2 or 3 decades are going to be a lot longer.
I'm buying into your story though, because we know that China is not producing as much coal and also not mining as much as it was because it's trying to outsource everything because it is messing up the environmental side of things, and they're also trying to preserve some of their resources and reserves. So definitely more demand coming through from China.
Yeah, because China is an enormous country physically, and it's got great coal reserves, doesn't have that much oil, it's got some of those rare minerals and so on.
Rare earths.
But it has an enormous appetite, and the stuff has to come from offshore. So they can site all of these smelters and stuff at the coast, put it on a barge and float it across the ocean. What a great solution, and the Australians are loving it too.
Absolutely. Okay, Harmony. Harmony was down 3.5%.
From
it was
the
up
sublime
12.
to the ridiculous.
Oh, please. It was down 3.5%. Most gold miners were down to that extent.
Okay, but what was the rumour that drove it up 12% yesterday?
It was on the speculation of it being a possible buyout target. We know the Papua New Guinea assets are fantastic, and
when
people
the dust settled,
finally woke up and realised how amazing these assets were.
It transpired that one analyst report who talked about the goldfields and Harmony South Africa assets being combined and then the global assets being spun off was like the basis of it. That is the worst kind of market rumor, and they always get the guys going. It's a pump and dump scheme. So they put out a report like that. It's not even a serious corporate consideration. It's some guy who's paid $100,000 a year to write these silly reports about what could or should happen in the marketplace.
It's said to be undervalued though. And this is why we saw a little bit of a re-rating when it comes to share price.
Look, Harmony's got the ounces in the ground, but they're in the wrong place. They're down at the bottom of the shaft where it's like 60 degrees centigrade, and you have to pay people a fortune, and they get
South
down
Africa,
there
not in
and they can work for half an hour before it's time to go back up to the surface again.
Lesetja Kganyago, Deputy Central Bank Governor.
He's a super chap. He's one of South Africa's finest public servants.
Yes.
He's done 12 years at the Treasury. The Treasury is like the cornerstone of the South African economy. All of those other ministries, you might as well shut them down and chase everybody home. The Treasury basically runs the country because they determine who gets money where.
Absolutely.
They've been running a fabulous process ever since the days of Maria Ramos and Trevor Manuel. Lesetja has been a rock. He deserves to get the Order of the Baobab or whatever it is they give people who do a good service. Now, I thought he was going to go and work for, the World Bank or something. He's going to go across and be the 3rd Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank.
Do you think he's going to be the governor at some point?
I think he could be. He's certainly got the gravitas for it. But I think the point here is that a lot of people are very negative about government and public servants in South Africa.
Okay.
Great example.
Buffett in India. I know you love Buffett.
Please don't talk about India, because the South African our team is busy collapsing. So I don't want to say anything more about India.
But you want to say something about Buffett.
If not, joy and happiness about South Africa, we're going to have to resort to following Buffett in India.